We hear ship's siren sounding, which may be the cue that the royal party is getting close. The harbour is to be closed because of the arrival of the Royal Yacht Britannia later in the afternoon. The royal party will leave aboard the Britannia, but in the meantime they have a very busy programme. The dockyard visit, then across to our new International Sports Centre to perform the official opening there, a drive through the streets of the city, and then to the Civic Park area, there to stroll amongst the citizens of Newcastle and meet some of them, then to the City Hall, there to meet local dignitaries and officials, and then a few minutes with the Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress, and then to the Britannia. Well, there are ship sirens sounding all around the place, which would seem to indicate that the royal party is getting close. Here come some black cars. And here comes Her Royal Highness, the Queen, and an entourage of cars. A Rolls Royce carrying the royal party. Here's the Queen, waving now and smiling. Prince Phillip sitting alongside her and Princess Anne riding just in front. The Queen is in an apricot frock and hat. Princess in an emerald green frock and white hat. The Duke smiling and waving. The Queen perhaps more formal, but nevertheless smiling and waving as she comes past. And a crowd of girls from the canteen waving. Then comes an entourage of other official visitors in a queue of black cars. They certainly moved quite rapidly into the dockyard, and they've now arrived at the point where the official welcoming party is waiting. The doors are open and Her Majesty is in Newcastle officially. Davis Hughes, the Minister in charge of the dockyard, greets her. Mrs. Hughes. Davis Hughes speaks to the Duke. Mrs. Hughes also curtsies to Princess Anne. Then the Queen greets the Lord Mayor of Newcastle, Alderman McDougall, Mrs. McDougall, and then goes on to meet Mr. Ronald Rains, the Chairman of the State Dockyard Board, and Mrs. Rains. And then there's Mr. Ken Wood, the Director and General Manager of the dockyard. Also Mr. Ian Butler, the Senior Divisional Manager for Shipbuilding at the dockyard, and Mrs. Butler. This is the official party now getting acquainted. Princess Anne now shaking hands also with all of the visitors. And very quickly they've disappeared straight into the Apprentice Training Centre. It's at this point, with Mr. Ken Wood accompanying Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh, that they will sign the visitors' book for the dockyard and then proceed to meet the apprentices inside the Apprentice Training Centre. They'll be in there for about 10 minutes and then they'll come out again and proceed for the formal ceremony of the naming of the Darwin Trader.
For the Australian National line,
well, we can see inside the Apprentice Training Centre now that Her Majesty is just walking forward and being accompanied there by, we recognise Mr. Tony Eggleton, the Prime Minister's Press Secretary. Here's Her Majesty. She's been chatting to the lads of the Apprentice Training Centre. Here she is stopping once again to talk to a couple of the boys who look a little bit shy and perhaps a bit taken aback at this fact. But inside the Apprentice Training Centre she has met quite a number of apprentices. Chris Noonan, an apprentice fitter and turner. She's met Ross Anderson, who's an electrical undergraduate trainee. She's met apprentice fitter and turner Gary Brunage, apprentice boilermaker Phillip Smith, David Odges, another boilermaker, and She's also met Robert Waterman, an apprentice shipwright. This may be Robert Waterman that she's speaking to now, we don't know. But she's just inside the apprentice training centre, and the whole royal party talking to the lads as they come along. Prince Phillip also stopping to chat, and the Princess Anne is just behind the Queen and the Duke and in close attendance. Photographers crowding around as close as they are allowed. And here she comes out of the apprentice training centre to walk along amongst the crowds. It's Mr. Ken Wood, the general manager of the dockyard, who's accompanying Her Majesty out of the apprentice training centre to walk the 150 yards or so to the ship she's to name. She's smiling now and looking very relaxed and happy. And here she is stopping to chat. Some of the old hands of the dockyard, and stopping to speak to them. Obviously referring to the ship, she points to the ship and chats to them. This may be Mr. Vaughan Ryan, who's had 31 years of continuous service at the dockyard. Over here, another worker. This is Alan Roberts, who's been 20 years at the dockyard. She also has a few words, a few well-chosen words, a few questions to ask. Looking very happy as she chats. There's the Duke, close attendance just behind her. Duke stopping to chat to one of the lads. I think this is an unrehearsed stoppage, and these ones not looking at all taken aback, quite happy to engage the Duke in conversation. The Queen still walking along. Princess has stopped to talk, being introduced by Mr. Hill of the Apprentice Training Centre, who's accompanying the Princess on this walk amongst the crowds lining this road in the dockyard. The Queen had stopped once again to chat to some more people, and they're certainly meeting the people as they go. Mr. Wood introducing yet another of the dockyard employees. We're not quite able to identify which of these is which. There's someone who's quite chatting quite freely to Her Majesty. The Duke talking man to man in the manner for which he's become so well known, and indeed he certainly finds it easy to mix and mingle with the crowds. Crowds pressing close now as we near the naming dais, and here Her Majesty is meeting Miss Maud Brisley, who's been with the dockyard for 29 years as secretary to the general manager, and just about an institution at the dockyard, Miss Brisley. Still moving along. The party has spread out quite a bit now. The Queen is now probably 20 yards in front of Princess Anne, who's also stopping to chat to people as she goes. Davis Hughes has now rejoined Her Majesty and takes her up onto the red carpet in between the stands of official guests, introducing Mr. Ian Sinclair, the Federal Minister for Shipping and Transport, and Mrs. Sinclair. Also there is Sir John Williams, CMG, the Chairman of the Australian Coastal Shipping Commission, owners of the vessel, and Lady Williams also. And then presenting the Bishop of Newcastle, the Right Reverend James Housden and Mrs. Housden. The Duke now chatting to the Sinclairs and also to Sir John Williams, Mrs. Williams. Now, Princess Anne also greets the Federal Minister, who has a smile and a few words for the Princess. Mr. Wood now introducing the Princess to Sir John Williams and also to the Bishop of Newcastle and Mrs. Housden. Now the crowd has pressed forward and right up to the official area, and Her Majesty now moves on to the naming dais. And here is the national anthem. A drum roll lasting until the royal party are in position on the naming dais. And there's the scene. Against the background of Newcastle Harbour, the royal family, and stepping to the microphone, the Minister in charge of the Dockyard, Davis
My
Hughes.
Lord Bishop, I invite you to conduct the naming ceremony.
The Bishop of Newcastle, the Reverend James Housden.
With Your Majesty's permission. They that go down into the sea in ships and occupy their business in great waters, these men see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For at his word the stormy wind ariseth, which lifteth up the waves thereof. They are carried up to the heaven and down again to the deep. Their soul melteth away because of the trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man, and are at their wits' end. So when they cry to the Lord in their trouble, he delivereth them out of all their distress. For he maketh the storm to cease, so that the waves thereof are still. Then they are glad, because they are at rest, and so he bringeth them unto the haven where they would be. Oh, that men would therefore praise the Lord for his goodness, and declare the wonders that he doeth for the children of men. Whoso is wise will ponder these things, and they shall understand the loving kindness of the Lord. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Let us pray. O thou that sittest above the water floods, and stillest the raging of the sea, accept, we beseech thee, the supplications of thy servants, for all who in this ship, now and hereafter, shall commit their lives unto the perils of the deep. In all their ways enable them truly and godly to serve thee, by their Christian lives to set forth thy glory throughout the earth. Watch over them in their going forth and in their coming in, that no evil befall them, nor mischief come nigh them, to hurt their souls. And so through the waves of this troublesome world, and through all the changes and chances of this mortal life, bring them of thy mercy to the sure haven of thine everlasting kingdom, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. To him, eternal Father. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, now and forevermore. Amen.
Your Majesty,
82.
Your Royal Highnesses, I give you a very warm and sincere welcome from all those people who work here at the State Dockyards. And may I express our deep sense of loyalty to you personally and to the Crown. This dockyard has played a very distinguished part in the history of sea transport in Australia. We've built some 70 ships ranging from tugs to 20,000-ton tankers. And I think that we have in this time built up a very enviable record for the standard of the construction here. And during the war, this dockyard also played a very important part so far as the naval forces were concerned. This ship, which you have so wonderfully consented to name, has been entrusted to us by the Australian National Line, represented here by Sir John Williams, for whom we have built many ships. This ship will play a very significant part in the transport between the east coast of Australia and in the development of the Northern Territory through Darwin. It is a unique vessel. It is designed for both container cargoes and as an ore carrier for the very special needs of the Darwin trade. Thank you for honouring our dockyard. This day will live long in the memories of all of us. Your Majesty, may I invite you to name the ship.
Mr. Minister, thank you for your words of welcome. In this year in which we celebrate James Cook's voyage of discovery in the Endeavour, I am glad to have been able to see how Australians are continuing their long tradition of building ships to sail in these waters. I name this ship Darwin Trader. May God bless her and all who sail in her.
Back the flag. reveal the name Darwin Trader. At the same time, a bottle of champagne has burst over the bows of the ship, a most unusual bulbous bow, and there's the name Darwin Trader revealed at that moment. Her Majesty moves straight forward to the front of the dais, moves down, accompanied by the Honourable Davis Hughes, and here are two little girls to present bouquets. First of all, Diane Walker with a bouquet for the Queen. And the Queen has time for a few words and a little smile for Diane. And then here's an even smaller girl with a bouquet for Princess Anne, and this is Charmaine Gavenlock in navy blue and white, and the Princess stops also to chat to her as she accepts her little bouquet. Already forcing its way through the crowd is the royal car, which is coming forward, and it looks as though Her Majesty is going to climb straight into the car at this stage. But she looks very relaxed and very happy, and she's smiling. And I think that the shade of apricot she's chosen to wear suits her complexion to perfection, and she certainly looks every inch a queen at this moment. Mr. Hughes shakes hands. Goodbye to Mrs. Hughes. The Duke shakes hands with Mr. Hughes, and the Queen enters the royal car. Prince Phillip looking very happy too, pausing to wave, and the crowd standing in the official stand wave back. Prince Phillip also into the car. Princess Anne climbs in quickly too. The doors are closed. Police now moving the crowd back to make way, and there goes the royal limousine with the first of the formal functions in Newcastle virtually complete. Prince Phillip has his hand up with a big wave and a very cheery smile. The Queen too waving now, although she's always a little more reserved than the Duke. But there she is waving with the left hand, and the crowd following her along the way as she heads for the Dockyard gate. Cars begin to gather speed. And then slow again. And away they go. Now there are people running everywhere to follow the royal party. Presumably lots of these, especially the children, will be travelling post-haste to the International Sports Centre there to get another look at Her Majesty also. Barry Brady will be at the International Sports Centre to bring you commentary from that point later in the afternoon. But here at the Dockyard, it's all over in the allotted time. Her Majesty has met the workers of the Dockyard, and especially the apprentices, and has named ship number 82 the Darwin Trader. And at this point, this is Murray Finlay on behalf of the crew at the State Dockyard saying cheerio and returning you to the studios.
In 1954, there was something like 360,000 people who flocked into Newcastle to see the royal family on their first tour of the city. People from all over the areas, surrounding areas, outlying areas around Newcastle. I think perhaps many people are taking it easy and in the comfort of their homes today. At this moment, they're watching the royal tour on television. Nevertheless, an extremely big and happy crowd here waiting for the arrival of the royal family. It's through these glass doors that you're seeing now that the royal family will come as they move through the reception area from the club, and will come down these steps to the official dais. And once on the official dais, the national anthem will be played, and then the children will begin their march onto the field. Well, it sounds from the surge of excitement that's going through the crowd as though the royal cars are approaching the International Sports Centre, and in fact they are. They should be coming into your camera shot, your television screen, any moment now. And here's the first car, which is merely a car to make sure that there's room for the royal family to move through. And following this car, the one with the pennant flying and this light and pleasant breeze, is the car with the royal family. The crowds are beginning to wave now as the car comes into view, with the royal standard flying, and their Royal Majesties waving back in response to the anxious and eager hands that are outstretched, most with flags in them, many simply waving their hands with great smiles on their faces, happy smiles to see the royal family here in Newcastle. The big, black, squat official cars move lazily through the crowds here and will go through to the front of the International Sports Centre, where their Royal Majesties will be received by officials of the International Sports Centre Trust, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, Mr. Kelly, President of the Trust, Mr. and Mrs. Price, Mr. Price, the Vice President of the Trust, Treasurer, Mr. Montgomery, MLA, Mr. Roy McCartney, and, of course, Mr. Harold Hawkins, Foundation President. Well, there's quite an excited sound going through the crowds now as the royal families pull up at the front of the International Sports Centre, alight from their cars, and are met by officials. Crowds are streaming through the gates and around the front of the enclosure and the front of the building to get another look. Crowds that were on the streets now in disorganised running have formed up around the front of the International Sports Centre to get another look at Her Royal Majesty, at Prince Phillip, and at Princess Anne. In the grandstand itself, as you can see, people waiting very expectantly, but also very patiently, for the official party to move through the glass doors that will lead to the steps and down to the dais. See them on your television set now. Once the formalities of the introductions and greetings are over, the Royal Majesties will move up the flight of steps to the first floor and the entrance foyer of the club. They'll move into an extremely pleasant area. In fact, in the foyer, I was there this morning having a look at it. It's complete with shrubbery and fountains and looks extremely cool and very pleasant and very relaxing. After some brief exchanges of greetings, no doubt, they will emerge through these glass doors and down the steps leading to the large dais, which has been especially erected for this day. And here they come. That was an extremely swift move through the club. They didn't waste any time. Obviously, they didn't want to keep anybody waiting any longer than they could. And here they are now, moving down the steps to the official dais. And the crowd that has been waiting so patiently is now giving vent to its feelings, and hands are clapping, hands are waving, hands are holding flags and waving. And everybody's being caught up in the enthusiastic greeting. Her Royal Majesty being led to the official dais by Mr. Kelly, President of the International Sports Centre Trust, accompanying His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Mr. Price, and Mr. Montgomery accompanying Princess Anne. And now the royal party has moved to the official dais, and any moment now the band will sound the national anthem. the 2nd Royal New South Wales Regiment and the 16 Transport Company Royal Australian Army Service Corps Pipe Band. A very sun-tanned royal family too, if I may say so. Looking through my binoculars at the royal family, they look as though they've been making good use of the time spent on board Britannia to catch a little sun on the trip out here to Australia. And now the band moving forward to take up a position and then a counter-march position near the centre of the arena.
As you hear the band of the 2nd Battalion, New South Wales Regiment, marching away from the area directly in front of the base.
Once the band moves into position, a signal from the Marshal, Mr. Vic Melville, will send the sporting teams marching on from their respective entrances and to take up their positions, which have already been determined previously. The band looking extremely smart and sounding extremely good. No doubt many hours of rehearsal have gone into this manoeuvre, and many hours have also been spent polishing up those buttons and preparing that blanco too. Even in the rather hazy light over Newcastle at this time of the day, the instruments are gleaming rather well. Now the band counter-marching to take up their position in the centre of the arena here at the Newcastle International Sports Centre. You may be having, in fact, some difficulty hearing the band, perhaps because of the still excitement that's going through the crowd. I think many people are so excited they're talking and laughing and waving, and I think perhaps the sound of the band isn't coming through perhaps as clearly as it could be. Well, there's the signal that's been given by the Marshal, and now the sporting teams led by the Newcastle Pony Club, the Cooks Hill Little Nippers and Little Nippers from Stockton and Swansea Caves and Merryweather and various other little nippers from the hundreds of little nippers that are very active in the surf line saving associations here in Newcastle and areas down to the Central Coast are marching onto the field and will take up their positions. Little nippers from Newcastle too. From Fingal Bay, you can see their flags not fluttering particularly well in the breeze. It has dropped down somewhat now. And over the other side of the arena, moving round in clockwise position, teams of children from various sporting organisations, athletic associations, etc., who are moving round to their positions. There's the children from the Newcastle Little Nippers coming into your monitors now, and there are the young ladies from the various athletic associations moving around onto the field too. This must be very reminiscent for many people of the Royal Tour of 1954, wherever you may happen to have been. I think this particular activity will bring back to mind to many of you the things that happened on that very wonderful day, wherever you may have been. Sporting organisations from karate and jiu-jitsu clubs are coming onto the field too, and the small contingent, but very active contingent of baseball players here in Newcastle taking their place on the field, and very soon you'll see some marching girls coming onto the field too. And there's a round of appreciation from the 26,000 people gathered here at the Newcastle International Sports Centre on this rather hazy Friday afternoon. West League's basketball club coming across the centre of your screen now, and children from this very active sporting organisation that encourages not only football. Western Leagues here in Newcastle, Western Suburbs League Club is quite an active football, the rugby league club, but they also encourage many other sports, basketball, hockey, vigoro, etc. And the South Newcastle Leagues Club marching behind them, like Western Suburbs and many other leagues clubs here in New South Wales, very active in encouraging junior sport. And here from the official dais, no doubt thoroughly enjoying this, even though they've probably seen this scene repeated on several occasions during their tour, but looking as though they're seeing it for the first time and enjoying it thoroughly, their Royal Majesties. And into your screen now, the marching girls, a small contingent of marching girls, quite an active city as far as marching girls are concerned here, but of course because of the limitations of the size of the oval, only some representative teams, in fact only some representative teams of sporting organisations has appeared. Were they all to march on the field here, I think perhaps they'd be crowding over into the outside parts of the ground. Marching girls coming onto the screen now, and behind them some of the people, the adults who work so hard in keeping the little ones active and organising them and giving so much of their spare time to making sure that the little ones always have something fresh and new to do and improving their knowledge of their various sports. Well, now, as soon as everybody is in position here on the field, the Royal Majesties will take part in the official part of the ceremony here today. As I said before, an extremely significant day for officials at the Newcastle International Sports Centre, because Her Majesty the Queen will officially open the Sports Centre here in Newcastle by pressing a button which will activate an electric switch inside the Sports Centre Club, which will open curtains revealing the official plaque. The plaque which in fact states that the centre was officially opened by Her Majesty the Queen. A round of drums will signal the president of the Newcastle International Sports Centre, Mr. B.A. Kelly, to address the gathering and to invite Her Majesty to open stage 1 of the Sports Centre. The royal standards fluttering slightly in this somewhat hesitant breeze. It was around 10 to 15 knots earlier in the day. Now seems to have dropped down to some 5 to 10 knots. And there's the march onto the field completed. And a round of applause from the crowd here today. And a very colourful field too, with blues and greens and reds and browns and oranges. And very soon now, the official welcome to the International Sports Centre by Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly is moving forward to the microphone now. President of the Newcastle International Sports Centre, Mr. B.A. Kelly.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, we are delighted that Her Most Gracious Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, has consented to open the first stage of this centre. 6 years ago, the Department of Lands suggested that this area of 80 acres be developed as a sporting complex. A trust was appointed with the assistance of the government, industry, commerce and individuals. We have received in cash and kind approximately $1 million. The official opening of the centre by Your Majesty will provide the inspiration and incentive to complete this project. I now respectfully invite Your Majesty to open stage 1 of the Newcastle International Sports Centre.
Her Majesty now moving forward to the microphone.
Mr. President, thank you for your welcome. I congratulate you and your fellow trustees on completing the first stage of the Newcastle International Sports Centre, which will make a valuable contribution to the health and happiness of the community. In declaring it open, it is my sincere hope that your aims will soon be realized by the completion of the whole project.
Now Her Majesty has pressed the button which will unveil the plaque inside the International Sports Centre Club area.
And on the final words of her speech, the Queen threw the button which unveils the plaque inside the main pavilion, where The clerk now... I've just been distracted slightly because the clerk has come on.
There has been a collection of, quite a large collection here, of pigeons from the Pigeon Sporting Club here in Newcastle, which have just been released into the air, and the round of applause also from the crowd was for this. I was wondering where the applause was coming from for a minute. Well, now the royal family, Her Royal Highness Prince Phillip and Princess Anne, are moving down to the big black car that has become a rather familiar part of the Australian scene on the television sets over the past days. They're looking back for a final look and a final wave to the people crowded in the higher parts of the grandstand. They're now moving into the car. His Royal Highness moving around again. Final wave, they're into the car. Princess Anne now moving into the car. The doors are closed. And this big moment for the people who've been crowding around the arena is now happening. The royal family is commencing the tour of the arena. The young people moving forward rather anxiously and eagerly. They had been restrained earlier, but there's no holding them now. They're moving forward to show just what it is they're thinking, and they're thinking of one thing only, and that's a great big rousing welcome for the royal family. Car moving very slowly around. The glass construction at the back of the car protecting the Royal Majesties from any vagaries of the weather, but at the same time affording an excellent view for the spectators, for the people who are here. The children running around, they're determined that they're going to get another look at the royal family, and so they're taken to their heels and they're pursuing the car around the arena. Some of the officials of the try to restrain them a little, but there's no holding them. They're determined to follow it right the way around until either the car stops or they stop from sheer exhaustion. Here they are moving around the arena very slowly. You can hear the roars from the crowd as they approach each new area. There's probably not much you can see of the royal family just at this moment. We'll get a good view of them, I think, as they come around through the ranks around to the right of your screen as they move through the assembled children. The children waving their flags and their banners, and the car slowing down now to the royal family to take a closer look, and for the children to have a little better look too. And now some of the children from the sporting clubs that had marched to the centre of the arena are going to get their turn to see the royal family. They're going to form a little line of their own to the left-hand side of the royal car as it comes around, or your left-hand side, the right-hand side of the royal car. And the sporting officials are saying to them, okay, go to it, fly on over there and get yourselves set for a wave. And they are too. They don't need any encouraging. A very nice shot, Princess Anne. And here's the car now moving around right into the middle of your screen. You can see through the glass there, you can see the royal family waving to the children. They're moving up and crowding around the car. Well, it looks like a surging, seething mass of humanity milling around the car, waving hands and a little bit of jostling, not much, but everybody wanting to get a little better look that they're getting at present. I mean, the royal family looks to be about as happy as the children are. They're thoroughly appreciating every moment of this spontaneous greeting that they're getting from the young people and from the adults in the crowd too. The police there are just moving the children back a little so that nobody inadvertently finds their feet underneath the car, which would spoil somebody's day of the royal tour. The car has slowed down a little now. There's some handshaking going on. The children have thrust their hands through, and there's been no hesitancy on the part of the royal family to take them and give one or two of them a little shake in return. The car is inching its way very slowly around the corner, through the gates that will lead out of the International Sports Centre arena and back along the drive to Civic Park, very slowly edging its way around. Princess Anne enjoying every bit of this. It's her first tour here to Australia with her family, and she is probably at first was overwhelmed a little by it all, but she seems to be taking it extremely coolly and calmly now. She's showing that she is every bit of a princess. There go the cars out of the Newcastle International Sports Centre, and the gates being pushed to so that the other cars can make their way through the crowds and to join the entourage as it moves its way back down along the streets that will lead to the Civic Park reception. And as they go, people are beginning to disperse and make their ways to their cars for their drive home, no doubt to talk over the excitement that has happened here today in Newcastle at the International Sports Centre on the occasion of this royal visit to Newcastle, New South Wales. And there's a last look at the royal family as it goes back onto the main road and now prepares to wind its way back through what will be probably for most of the way crowd-lined streets to Civic Park in the centre of the city. Still a few children who have decided to pursue the car just as far as they can until it catches up, takes up a little bit more speed anyway. So the children are running alongside to express their feelings for the royal family. And this has been the scene here in Newcastle at the International Sports Centre for this royal visit. And now the people from the sporting organisations are reforming after the breaking of ranks, but fairly organised breaking of ranks at that went on. They're now back formed up again, and they're marching off the field to the sound of the 2nd Royal New South Wales Regimental Band and the 16 Transport Company Royal Australian Army Service Corps Pipe Band.